Hello everyone and welcome back to this week's color palette challenge. I am moving into color cube 1. We've done 5 palettes from the first box, which got to be chosen for color box 2. But now we are going to move over to color cube 1 and we're going to pick our first of 5 palettes that are going to be done on a weekly basis out of color cube 1, which is part of Sarah Renae Clark's color cube system. Same instructions as usual. Let's see what our first palette is going to be here with this one. We are doing palette 1111, and these are the colors. Let's see what they specifically are. We have gray, teal, dark blue, azure, and crimson. In the red family, to my eyes, they're looking a little bit reddish brown, but you know, they're older eyes, so who knows? Somebody may see this and say, yes, that's crimson. I'm now going to go and look for something close to at least a few of these colors. Okay, I think I have grabbed sufficient types of paint that are going to closely match this palette that I chose from Color Cube 1 by Sarah Renae Clark. We are doing the first one for Color Cube 1, which is palette 111. Yet again, another palette of colors that I would not pick. I think the universe is trying to tell me something here. So, gray, teal, we're going to go with that. Dark blue, we'll go with the azure. And then this is supposed to be azure, but I'm going to use a wisteria blue because I think that's actually a lighter blue. And then crimson because, yes, the reds are haunting me. So I'm going to use some Liquitex in this crimson over here. So we're going to put the card over here, hopefully safe from me when I get going. You can see that from one of the last painting challenges, the paint did go through to other pages. So this time I'm smart. I've got the paper towel underneath there. Hopefully it'll work in my defense. I'm going to start with gray, go to the dark blue, azure. I have wild blueberry just in case. Then I think I'm going to go into this phthalo green. I got these other 2 things of interest around here. So this is a Liquitex acrylic medium, pouring medium that was in iridescent. I was curious to see what that would look like. I'm not liking how thin these Art Deco Art Americanas are. So that was what I was going through. Put it in this or put it in some golden heavy gel gloss. I'm using gloss. I want it to shine. I don't want it to be matte. Sue me. So it's my palette party and I'll paint how I want to. This, like I said, is too liquidy. I already tried it out here with the gray. And the heavy gel gloss is what's actually making this nice and thicker. It's probably going to be thicker than when I go and use these thick matte paints that Yvette Saint Amand puts out. Hers are very thick matte paints. But we've got this here. Okay, let's get this party started. I sort of want to do color blocking. I want to do, again, a whole background solid color blocks. So gray mixed up into the dark blue azure, up into this green. Color block, but I'm going to take a dry brush, potentially, and just whip that up once I get it all down. Let it dry. And then I want to actually try something that I tried on a different painting that you guys don't see. This is some of the stuff that I work and experiment on the side. And what I did was the same thing. Let me pause. Okay, here I am. I'm back. So anyway, you can see I sort of did like a gradient more than anything, trying to do like a sunset in the back. So this was a test on a canvas. I think this is a 10 by 10. I wanted to just try and play around with some of my more abstract. I don't know if you can see how textural. I actually have a video of this on my Instagram, Arts from Her Heart, where I show what I did with this. I actually then came and put splotches of paint down, but I used plastic wrap and squished them around and let it dry with the plastic wrap in place for a pretty good long time. Then carefully peeled it off and got this lovely texture on a lot of it. I want to try and go back and do something else on this. And so I thought this would be a perfect way to experiment. Are you ready to try and see if I can do this, or do I fail miserably? Let's get this palette 111 party started. And we're going to start with the gray. And let's see what I can do. This has been mixed up. I did mix it up earlier. The gray, like I said, with the golden heavy gel gloss to give this a little bit more oomph and body. Just gonna lay it on. And I don't care if it doesn't completely cover up the blue underneath. Let's see if we can get this to do a good amount. You can see that it is a gloss medium that I used underneath. This is definitely coming more to the light side. So it's probably going to be perfect for me in a moment to add some of that dark blue azure into it. And let me make sure that medium is open. As usual, always get some on me. I never was allowed to play in the mud, but now in my adult years, I get to play in the paint. Isn't that great? I think it's great. Let's move it up a little bit. See if there's still enough of that gloss in there. Okay, so I'm going to add a little titch, because you know that's such a big technical term, a little titch of this azure. Let's put it over here. Okay, and that's probably more than what I should have done because blues can be pretty high pigment. That might be very nice to start easing, even putting a layer of that over it. It's muted that blue a little bit, but I'm liking it. And you know, that's what matters right now, isn't it? Let's mix it so that it's on the paintbrush, still mixing with some of that gray. And let's see, I start halfway. What happens? It's a thick mess. Ooh, that is looking like a dark, turbulent sea almost. So, as you can see, good thing I put down the paper towels this time. Live and learn. Yeah. So we've got sort of a gray, but it's a blue gray underneath. And we got that medium coming through with the white. That's all right. Sort of gives it a swirling look. Okay, let's try and do some nice. And there's some sticky bits in there. And I'm going to let that go. At that stubborn paint at the top there. I hate wasting paint. But hopefully some of you are having a laugh at me right now, because I think it's pretty funny that I am fixating on, am I wasting any paint? Okay, so we've got that. Now I'm going to just bring it up here, because what we're going to do now is we're going to go straight into the azure. I like saying that. All right, I am not rinsing the paintbrush. I'm going to let it go. So now this is the full throttle of that blue azure. And let's see what it looks like when we don't mix anything with it. And that actually could have been the first paint that I put down. Doesn't that look like it's a moody kind of ocean in the back there? And I didn't do any taping off. Not going to get upset about not taping off. All right, this is using up a lot of paint. Okay, let's start from this side. So we need to cover over. See what I said about, if anybody looked at that one, it was the Midnight Garden. That was the one that I sort of made the mess here with the blue paint coming all over going on to page upon page upon page of in this watercolor book that I'm using here. So if I can, I just go back to some of the ones that really got hit with that color bleeding through. So now we got that, and I'm gonna clean it off a little bit here, get any excess. And what's the next color gonna be? The next color is gonna be the green. So we've got this one, the Phthalo Green from Liquitex. I'm gonna try and see if I can do this without having to mix any of that gel medium in on it. And no, I am not cleaning the paint brush. I'm gonna mix some of that azure in with it. And we're gonna go from there. We're gonna see, it should just lighten, sort of make a green blue, but we'll see how well my color theory works today. It's funny because I'm using 3 different kinds of paint. You get to see how each one works. With this one, I'm bringing a lot of that watercolor paper because this isn't a smooth watercolor paper. It is more of the rougher grain. It's not a full rough like I use sometimes with my arches, but it is not smooth. It is still cold press versus hot press, so it will have texture to it. I like how that blue is coming out in that a little bit. Can I get it to go to the end here? Or am I really going to have to put more paint on? I thought I used a lot. I could have probably mixed it down with some of that gloss. The gloss medium. Probably could have. And when you look at it, it is making a nice blue-green mixing together here versus just that real teal color. All right, let's see if we can get this to go. What I'm going to do is dry, and then I'm going to come back and decide exactly where I want to drop the solid drops of paint, throw the plastic wrap on it. I move the paper a little bit through the plastic wrap, see what I can combine a little bit. That'll dry, and I want to see what the texture ends up being. Okay, now, is this too dry? So you see how that's blocked out. We got the grayish blues, the dark blue to the green. All right, I'm experimenting. If I don't like it, I'll stop. This helped to hold it down. We're going to hold down a corner here. It's a little on the dry side, so it's really not moving as much as it could. If I had done this a little bit when it was wet. And I'm not too sure about, oops. There, can we put that in there? Oh, that's the bristle, because these are not expensive brushes. So just, I could leave that in there if I wanted to, make some texture. Because if I go use my finger, it is gonna, there we go, got it. All right. So, about as far as I can go, because by doing this, I'm pretty much drying it out. Here. Just because I'm so picky. Finger. Okay, there we go. All fixed. Let me pick this up. Let me first get this off my fingers. It actually looks like a massive rainstorm coming down onto the sea. Look at that. To me, that looks like a nasty squall out at sea. And we've got that moving up there. Just a really dark color blocking, but you know, those are some dark colors. Now, like I said, gonna let this rest and then come back, and we still have the blue. the red, and then we'll see. I might end up putting more green in there and mixing it with gray and maybe some white in there. Stay tuned. This is fully dry. I'm going to keep the protector paper towel underneath it. Now let's go to the next step. The next step was I wanted to put the next layer of color down and then put some plastic wrap over it. I still want to use the red, the crimson. I've got the teal or the green. They call it something different. I've got azure. I've got this lighter blue that they're calling azure, but it's lining up more to this wisteria blue that I have handy. And yes, oops, this is the gold. I want the silver. Silver. So what that means is I'm going to lay down some lines, dots of the paints, and then I'm going to put the plastic wrap over it and squish it around a little bit, move it around with my hands, and then let that dry and see what kind of movement paint I get, combinations I get, kind of textures I get. When it's dry, remove the plastic wrap, and I will then go from there. All right, I can get these open. I'm going to do a little bit of red up here. Ooh, it's just going to plop it out, isn't it? Just a little bit more. I'm not going to go too crazy, I think, on the amounts that I'm putting down. Now, I did see something in my head of saying, let's go ahead and take that teal and put a little bit of it down here. See, there's teal. This green is in here already with white. It really looks like an ocean with rain just pouring down into it, causing it to churn. So it's looking like a real stormy kind of night here on this canvas or watercolor paper that I've got going right now, and it's so textured. Let's go ahead and see if we can add some more here. I have no idea what this is going to look like. This could be really interesting. Sort of a little bit of a blue there. Go ahead and add some of it here. What happens if we try and lighten up some of it? That could have just been the biggest mistake putting it there, but we'll see, okay? And the blue, if I do blue and red, that's going to make a purple. Now, let's just see a little bit more here. So that means I technically now have almost all the colors of the palette in there. I think I do have almost pretty much the colors of the palette in there. And now I want to put silver. You know what? Put some here. A little bit more. But I'm going to put, I want some, ooh, above that. Let's see here. And now I'm thinking. I'm thinking, yes, I could get a brush like that one sitting right there. Okay. I think we got enough silver on there. Put that cap on right away so I don't forget. Don't want to dry that paint out. That one's very, very expensive. Now, plastic wrap. And of course, it really is clingy. All right, let's get it over the whole space. And now I'm just going to use my hands to move this all around. And see what we get here. Okay. I think I was drawn to the silver because a car tends to have that chrome on it, and it's a silvery chrome. So I'm swirling a little bit here, making some swirling motions through the plastic wrap. And now I'm sweeping, and I'm trying to use my fingernails so that it also brings some lines through that red. You can see how and I've actually done some holes in there too, it looks like. That's all right. I started out as a lefty. I can use my left hand if I need to. So it will go through. But I'm still going to have some texture here. And I just let this go ahead and dry, seeing what this ends up looking like. Trying to get a little bit more of this blue, the light blue, in with that dark blue, and see what it does. And we'll mix it together a little bit more. Now that teal, sorry, that's my table. That's my table making that noise. I like having that streaking through there. We're going to let it dry. You can see it went through the plastic wrap. So either I've made some holes in there, or plastic wrap wasn't really made to hold on to all of that fussing and fighting. So that's where it is right now. And you can see that we've got all of those ridges in the plastic wrap. You can see my finger drags in there. Let's go ahead and let this dry completely. And then I'll take this off and we'll see where we're going from there. Popping in here for quick in-between stage. I went to see if it was dry, and it is. Some of the plastic did catch here on the paper, but a lot of people like to watch when you pull one of these things. Let's see if we can get this to pull off for you. And hear that there. This would be what the piece of plastic wrap looks like. And we're going to put that to the side. But this is what this is looking like right now. Some of the blue did go over on there, but it didn't stick. It needs to dry a little bit more. It's still wet. Let me see if I can pick this up so we can see where we are right now. You can see where I was using my fingers and nails to make some lines. It's got the crinkling of how I left the plastic wrap. It's even got some delicate texture in there. And some of the silver. I want to make sure this really is dry before I go any further, but wanted to stop in and show this part of this process of trying to take that plastic wrap off. Like I said, we were having a little bit from the plastic wrap tearing. It was sticking a little here, so I did go ahead and start it, but you got to see most of the process. All right, let's let this dry and we'll go from there. And I forgot to turn on the sound. So here I am telling you that this is all dry. And you can see that there are some nice whirs and grooves coming from that plastic wrap. And that green mixed with the silver really made a new nice color, like a mint. So I'm just going over here looking at all the different things. It is definitely shiny with the silver. A lot of interesting texture and movement coming from using that plastic wrap. And so, but I'm not really pleased with that blue right now. That wisteria blue, sometimes you don't have to use every single color in the palette, and I really probably should have just not gone with it. I should have maybe just stuck with what I had and used the silver and what you're going to see white to help liven it up a little bit. But you do what you got to do. You live and learn. It's part of the process. Experiment. So speaking of experimenting, I still wanted to use some pastes because I want to use a paste on that canvas I showed you. But this is that Hero White. It was very liquidy, very soupy. So I was like, well, that isn't going to work. So let me mix it with the textured opaque white and then some sparkle. And that really does make it sparkle. It's not coming through very well on the video, but in real life, nice and sparkly. And then I pulled out some black paste because I was thinking about mixing white and black on this, but didn't work out that way. We'll see. But I did use some of that white sparkle to mix in the crimson red and get a lighter colored red. It's not that deep blood red that you're seeing up there on the right top corner. So grabbed myself the metal palette knife, and I'm trying to decide. I want to start in that bottom left hand corner because it's just really blue. Did not like it. So my first thoughts, let's make petals, make a fan. And I was originally going to go between this white paste, and then I was going to put that black paste in between and try and see if I went back and forth between the dark and the light, dark and the light. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, well, let's try and get this doing a progression here instead of sticking all in this one corner, because that dark blue in the center there was really dark. This just really felt like a dark piece, and I'm not digging it. It's a dark palette for me of colors, and I'm not digging it. But then I started going, hey, if I scrape this white across, I noticed it was really falling into the grooves that the plastic wrap left, and it was really starting to catch my attention, as you can see here. And I got into this scraping and moving it across, and basically I'm frosting the substrate, and I'm sort of liking what it's looking like. I'm still trying to decide, am I gonna save these petals? And it's a no. I had a little bit of a whoops, slipped, and then I said, you know what, everything's working in circles, let's work across horizontally. And then something struck me of, let's use this palette knife like a knife. So I started to make these vertical slash marks, and I liked them, but I wanted them to move and progress up the side of the page there of the paper. And so, you know, I didn't want it all left in the corner. I wanted it to be showing some movement up into this upper range of the paper here, the watercolor paper, and coming off the page. And by the time I made it up there, I was like, let's just sort of make it a fog, like a haze of this white paste. So started getting to look at that, and it's really going into the grooves that were left by the plastic wrap, and it's really catching my attention here, especially how that white with the sparkle is playing off that silver acrylic paint. And I'm pointing out here that I really, really like how that's looking, you know, the vertical versus in contrast to those horizontal slashes of that white paste. And so pick up the plastic palette knife, and I'm going to start trying to use this, what's going to be a lighter crimson with that white paste. And so that hard plastic palette really allowed me to almost get like a very, very thin layer, almost like it's a mist, like it's a fog going across. And so I really liked how it was very subtle. Yeah, I know it's red, it's not very subtle, but it was compared to that deep red crimson up there in that right corner. And I just liked how it was looking there, especially at that bottom right corner. I really liked how that thin layer was looking, and I wanted to spread it a little bit across and lay it on top of that green, which, because it's fully dry, it's just another little layer on top of it. And I'm liking how it's falling in with a little bit of that white paste and making a little, you know, darkness to the light kind of thing going on there. So now I'm just trying to scrape whatever I can that's left on that palette, because it was drying pretty quick, and I'm trying to get it into these grooves, and I'm trying to use the edge of the palette knife and make some lines and draw some lines in there, just so that they're nothing on them, they're just actually cutting through. They're cutting through the paste, they're cutting through what I've laid down a little bit, just to have a different kind of strike mark. And let me tell you, you really, you get a workout, and you also get to get your aggravation out. That's the fun part of it all. It was fun to, you know, any pent up angst you got there, grab yourself a palette knife and some paste and just go to town with whatever you're painting on your canvas or your paper.
And so again, I'm trying to make it look like it's progressing and transitioning up into this really dark red that's up there. I didn't want it to just, you know, blob here, blob there kind of thing. I wanted to try and get some kind of a transition going there, to better or worse. And so at this point, I'm not going to go with the black paste. I'm deciding to end it. I'm good with this white. I felt it really brought some life to it versus it just being so dark. So I used I'm allowed to use white if I want to. And it was actually in that palette photo for reference. So I'm just wiping some of it off, taking the protective paper out there. And I should be about to, yeah, here I am. I'm about to try and lift this up. Look at the texture. Look at the lines. Look at what that plastic wrap left and had there for me to use and utilize to put this paste into and try and work together with it. It just, I actually ended up sort of liking this more than I thought I would, even though I would never use these colors. Not my kind of colors, let me tell you. So it was palette 111 out of cube 1. And again, I don't think I would use that wisteria blue again. I should have stopped. So here are all the different colors that were on the palette and what they corresponded to over my different brands of acrylic paints. So there were 3 different kinds of acrylic paints that I used here, different manufacturers. And, you know, for better or worse, oh, and of course, always my love, my golden silver iridescent. That's one of my favorite paints. And better or worse, another one done. It ended up coming out better than I thought once I added that white paste and those vertical lines into it. And so I'm asking you, please, if you liked it, subscribe, like, and share. And thanks again for watching. See you next time.